Hey everyone, welcome on into AZ Audibles. I'm Sandy Charles and I'm joined by Eric Sorensen and Devin Henry. Gentlemen, we made it through the regular season. The playoff brackets are set. They were released. First, your reactions to seeing the brackets. Eric, let's start with you.
I'd really love to know who is on the panel for the AIA. They've been really secretive about that. And, there's going to be debate, especially when you get into the Open 8. And I certainly have my opinion on it. I said in previous editions of this segment, I thought the Highland Hawks, even with 3 losses, were worthy. I'd put Queen Creek in there as well. South Point Catholic, you know what? Great story. New coaching staff, overhauled staff, a lot of new faces, undefeated season. However, this is not the 2019 version of South Point, which pushed Chandler harder than any team did last season, almost taking them out in the Open 8 semifinals. I'm just not buying the Lancers at this point. And I could say the exact same thing about Corona. Great season, no offense to them. Unbelievable run to this point. However, the region that they play in has 0 teams with winning records. Zero. The Open 8 was created to get the best 8 teams in, not the prettiest. It's like, guys, when we were younger and we were picking teams for pickup basketball, okay? We want the dogs. We want the top of the top. We don't want the ones with the pretty new Jordans or the ones with the neat headbands. We want the best, and I just think the AIA swung and missed this year.
Eric, I totally agree. When you bring up 2019 South Point, you have to remember that's Bijan Robinson. That team is long gone from that. And of course, Corona del Sol, are they battle tested? No. Can they compete against any of these teams in the Open? We will find out. Devin, your take.
I honestly think that there were only 10 teams so you can make an argument for being in the Open 8. And so, I'll settle. I think that the Open 8, it's good. It's not perfect in anyone's eyes probably. But you know what? I'm okay with this 8 here. I think it's okay. Corona del Sol, obviously, they didn't get those major wins, but they went undefeated against tough 6A opponents. I'll put them in there. South Point Catholic, again, undefeated. I think that really Queen Creek and Highland are the only teams that you can really argue to make that swap. In my opinion, the ranking once you get the 8 doesn't matter. I mean, you're going to have to beat Chandler and Hamilton to get to the state championship game anyway. And I think that losing to Chandler in round 1 or losing to Hamilton in round 2 just doesn't really make a difference. So once you're in the 8, you can randomly rank them, in my opinion. And I think you'll get what you get no matter what between these 8 teams. But when I look at the rest of the bracket, 6A down, those were all determined by the actual algorithm that the AIA typically uses. Without the committee, Saguaro, Liberty, and Centennial would not have made the Open 8. And when you look across 6A, I mean, I don't know. 6A was a little weird for me. I think Williamsfield and Higley put up really good seasons even with their losses. 4A and 3A had forfeits in the play-ins, and a team like Mesquite goes from 1 to 3 somehow. Like, I don't know. The algorithm has always been troublesome. I thought that 7 or 8 games would not have been too small of a sample size for the algorithm, but I was proven wrong. This algorithm just 6A, 4A, and 5A didn't get, I think, what they deserved.
2 quick storylines, guys, I want to jump in here. Number 1, maybe the most important one in the Open, is the health of Nico Marchiol. He got hurt last week against Chandler, left the game in the 3rd quarter, did not come back. I talked to Mike Zadebski after the game. He didn't say a whole lot. I reached out to a couple other people close or inside the Hamilton football program. No real response. So Corona might have the opportunity, albeit, no one wants to play. They want to play the best against the best, but Corona may be facing the Huskies without Nico Marchiol, which would be a big advantage. Also, Devin, following up on what you said on 6A, I mean, I look at that bracket and it's absolutely loaded. I already mentioned Highland. You have Queen Creek, Boulder Creek, the number 1 seed. Usually Boulder Creek is the 15 or 16. The Jags go from being the hunter to the hunted. And then you have Chaparral, Sandra Day O'Connor. That Chap team, it's been kind of a roller coaster ride, but they have so much talent on both sides of the ball. 6A is going to be a lot of fun.
Totally agree on all points. I did have something that so surprising when I first look at all of this. Those were all my teams in the Open, aside from South Point, and I'll get to that. But Desert Edge being number 8 was my most surprising. And then 6A, like you said, they're stacked. So excited to see Highland in there. The Highland Castile game, I think for me, looking on the paper, I'm so excited for them. For 5A, I'd want to touch on them. Sunrise Mountain is the number 1 seed. That's the first team I saw play this year, and they were playing against Cactus, and I was blown away how they're coached, playing talent on offense, defense. So happy to see them as the 1 seed, and then Ironwood as the 6th seed. I love Will Haskell, so excited to see how they do against Desert Mountain. Okay, all together, 6A, is there a matchup that you're really excited about? I know Queen Creek going up against Chaparral. How is Queen Creek going to contain Brayton Silbor? And on the other side, how is Chaparral going to contain Devin Brown and the Reynolds brothers? You guys, is there a matchup in 6A you really are just like, that's it?
Well, guys, these are 2 teams that are no strangers to deep playoff runs. Obviously, Chaparral under Charlie Regal back in the day won a number of state championships, and Queen Creek seems to be a regular every year as well. 2 good quarterbacks, 2 really solid lines, and this is just going to be this could be either a 14-13 game, or this game could be like 45-42. I don't know. Like Chaparral, I saw them against Centennial. Mostly good, some bad, and they've had issues with COVID. You know, they had their first 3 games canceled. They might just be rounding into playoff form as we speak.
Naturally, I picked the 4 versus 5 game, the most, closest schools in the bracket. Castile versus Highland, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. You look at Highland, that's a team that I think we all agree had a chance to be in the Open. Their losses are to Hamilton, to Chandler, even held on pretty tight for the most part with both of those teams in the first half, lost against Queen Creek, and then they even beat Higley, who's a team that held on real tight against Hamilton. I think that Highland could be someone who comes from outside the top 2, who could end up being in the state championship game. But guys, do you remember when Castile was 3A? 3A? And now they might be a team in 6A to get to the semifinals. I love looking at Castile and how they have grown the past few years.
I think big picture too, we just have to be excited and thankful that we're actually talking about this, because 4 months ago, this whole season, much less the postseason, was a complete question mark. And I know some districts and some schools had their season cut short, but just to be in Thanksgiving week talking about this is unbelievable.
Devin, back to your point, Highland and Castile, I got to see the Highland-Higley game, and Higley did a great job of slowing down Max Davis, the running back for Highland. He is so dynamic, and he is awesome. So key to Highland is slowing down their running game, but I talked to Highland's head coach, Brock Farrell, and he told me, yeah, they slowed down our running game, but just watch. We can throw it, too, and we'll get it done, and they did, because Gage Daly, he's their quarterback, and he is a maker. So love that Highland team. I did have them in my Open. Let's break down the Open just a little bit more, just dissect it, because I know we talked about Corona del Sol, we talked about Sal Point. I personally think Sal Point should be the 8th seed. We'll switch those, Desert Edge instead of Sal Point. Are there any other things that just jump off the chart for looking at this? Liberty Centennial, Sal Point, Saguaro, anything else in this Open that you just want to dissect through?
Couple things for me would be, number 1, Desert Edge Chandler. I mean, Desert Edge, they feel disrespected. They think they've been slept on the entire season. They have not been perfect. They are undefeated. It hasn't always been pretty for the Carter twins, but they have that opportunity now. And like Devin said earlier, you're going to have to play Chandler at some point. So you might as well just jump into the deep end and see if you can swim with the Wolves. On the other side of that, looking at one of the other matchups, I don't think people are really talking about Saguaro. Saguaro is the 3 seed. Saguaro's out there. They face Sal Point. That's a great matchup for the SaberCats. They're familiar with Sal Point. They've played Sal Point in the past. Just keep an eye on SaberCats and Saguaro. Maybe not to win it all, but to make some noise in the Open.
I love the rematches, and the one that I think that most people won't recall as a rematch is what you just mentioned, Eric, Saguaro versus Sal Point. I mean, it feels like we're just having another 4A state championship game, right? But it's just in the Open 8 now. And potentially it's really just a 5A state championship game in the Open 8. They've played each other so much the past few years on such a big stage. In this game, it feels just like a championship rematch between those two schools. And Eric, do you remember last year when we had this conversation about how we did not want to see Chandler versus Hamilton in the first round last year after they played in the final game of the season.
Yep.
Now we're getting that with Liberty and Centennial. Both teams, I think, obviously saw the other team's weakness, but Centennial was the team that was able to push through in that final week of the season to beat Liberty. Okay, Lions, did you learn your lesson? Okay, Centennial, can you add that pass game that was essentially, they didn't even use it. It's not that they couldn't use it. They didn't use it. They almost kept it quiet, and I'm kind of excited to see when do they actually use that pass game with sophomore quarterback Austin Glimpse. So there's a lot of questions in that game. What did you learn? What are you going to figure out? How does the first round of the Open 8 look like for that rematch?
I keep hearing from coaches all week long, you never want to face a team twice in a season, and you're going to see Centennial Liberty back-to-back weeks. That, to me, I was like, these two teams, what are they going to do? I love it. I know I'm a little biased because I was so hard on Centennial earlier, and I love seeing them the 4 seed. Where I really feel bad is Corona del Sol because they have to get through Hamilton, Chandler, Saguaro. Can they do it? That's where I don't know. But Eric, to your point, I love that Saguaro, they were my 3 seed all year long, even when people weren't talking about them and didn't even have them ranked when these first came out. Saguaro, with all those transfers that were able to start playing week 4, week 5, completely different team. So very excited for them across the board. Desert Edge, yes, being a little disrespected. They should have been maybe the 7 or 6 seed. Gentlemen, again, always fun. And like Eric said, thankful to be doing this and that we got through 10 weeks and now we look ahead to playoffs. This was another edition of AZ Audibles for Eric Sorensen, Devin Henry. I'm Sandy Charles. For more AZ Audibles, head to sports360az.com.